What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Steelers Breakdown Podcast here on Penn Live. Let's talk a little bit about the main story of the day, of course, Russell Wilson's calf issue. Um, he has calf tightness again. This has kind of festered throughout all of training camp, right? He missed basically the first 2 weeks of training camp, was then limited for about another 2 weeks, and then finally kind of started to get back up to speed. He only recently has been, full practicing, being named a starter, et cetera, et cetera. And so this has been an up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down saga. And this calf issue has lingered, and it's no surprise. These injuries often do linger. We've seen this with Joe Burrow last year. We saw this with Aaron Rodgers before. Calf injuries are tough. They heal slowly, and they re-injure easily. A lot of the soft tissues do, hamstrings, et cetera, et cetera. And so it's not like that much of a surprise to see Russell Wilson tweak that calf again. It's not, but there's a lot to take into consideration here. I don't get the sense that this is serious from people that I've talked to. Again, I don't think this is like some huge aggravation where it maybe went from a tweak to a grade two and he's out 4 to 6 weeks. I don't think that's what this is. It could be a minor tweak though that could turn into something more if he plays. And that's the tough part. And how much of the playbook is actually open to the Steelers if Russ does start. There are all these calculations you have to make if you're Arthur Smith, Mike Tomlin, all those guys. Because Russ could maybe play, but if he's not 100%, if you can't do rollouts, if you can't do the full extent of the playbook, I mean, there's a lot of questions there. There's a lot to be worried about there. And you would at least be able to do that with Justin Fields. This isn't a situation where it's Patrick Mahomes to his backup where okay, he's got a calf injury, but the drop off is so stark that you play that guy. These guys are close enough, certainly, to where if Russell Wilson can't execute a full offense, and more importantly, if the risk is so high that you are worried about him getting re-injured and this turning into something long term, because right now, Mike Tomlin, in his own words, said no, he's not worried about this being a long term thing. So that alone is something to look at. That alone, it's important. And here's the thing with Russell Wilson. His game is so predicated on mobility. It's not just the rollouts that I'm talking about. It's not just that. It's, running around, backyard football, getting out, extending plays. How does he create passing lanes for himself? He's a smaller quarterback, but he creates passing lanes by moving through the pocket, going around. Man, calf injuries for quarterbacks are really hard. You saw the effect it had on Joe Burrow last year. And just, well, of course, when Joe Burrow just started to get going, he hurts his wrist, of course, but it took him a long time to fully get back to being Joe Burrow because he re-injured that calf too at a certain point and played through it. And so it's really hard, to be yourself when you are a guy that extends plays out of structure like a Russell Wilson does. It's really hard to play with a calf that hurts you all the time. And so if he needs to rest, if this needs, a week or two to settle down, I mean, the easy answer right now is for the Steelers to play Justin Fields. And I know, you're opening the door for Fields, whatever, et cetera, et cetera, but he will give you better chance to win than Russ not having that mobile element of his game because mobility is such a huge element of what Russell Wilson does. We know that. And so, he needs that mobility. And if he doesn't have it, or he's going to try and push it too hard to where, he could re-injure that calf. You don't want that to happen either. So there are a lot of things to take into consideration here. And so they need to evaluate tomorrow how severe this is, his re-injury risk, the high level of that injury risk. If it's low and you feel like he could still move around in the pocket, I say you play him. But if he's gimpy in the pocket, doesn't really want to use it, or if he pushes it too much, this guy could get re-injured. That is a serious issue. And the Steelers do in this offense, they do so much within their offense that is built around the quarterback having mobility, right? The QB run game part of it too. I mean, Russ can obviously do that, but that is a significant part of this. If you can't do keepers, if you can't have that ability to get out of structure and create plays, I think these are concerns with Russell Wilson. It's such a fabric of his game. It's such a fabric of Arthur Smith's offense. And if you don't have those, it's really hard, to get success going when you're so limited, like Russ would be with a calf injury. That would really limit him in a lot of those areas. So we'll see. Russell Wilson won that battle, and if he's healthy enough, and if the re-injury risk is not crazy, they could still, do keepers, bootlegs, et cetera, then play him. If not, I think Justin Fields is the better option, for a week or two, and then kind of see where things go from there. If Russ can get back on the field, how severe this injury is, et cetera, et cetera. The other injury that I mean is concerning too that came up is Darnell Washington. Now, we've seen guys before in years past pop up on Thursdays, DNP, and then full practice tomorrow. Um, I'm going to be real with you. I kind of expect that to happen here. I'm not too concerned with Darnell Washington's injury. But one thing I will say is that when I look at the ability to replace Darnell Washington, there is no direct replacement. Now, they have guys that you could replace, and by that I mean you have guys that you could maybe have fill in parts of it. For example, Michael Pruitt could definitely fill in parts of the blocking that Darnell Washington could do, but he's not going to be what Darnell is as a blocker or as a pass protector. Or as in those roles, that's not what he's going to be. And so that could be something to watch, certainly. If Darnell Washington cannot be the end man on the line of scrimmage on some of these runs and get out in space, that's a significant loss for the Steelers. It absolutely is. They need a guy like Darnell Washington who could stay in mass protection, who could stay in and block at a high level and pass pro because they're going to have this inexperienced offensive line playing. You want to neutralize guys like Judon and Jarrett and Onyemata. And that's going to be a big part of it. Having a guy that you trust like Darnell Washington to get out there and stay in to protect is a big part of what the plan would be to protect him, especially, even going back into conjunction with the injury to Russ. I mean, if Russ does play, this is going to be an incredibly big element to keeping him clean. So Darnell Washington is an absolutely huge part of the Steelers' plans, in my opinion. And so you definitely need him in this game. And so two concerning injuries. Outside of that, the injuries seem fine to me. Troy Fautanu, Jalen Warren, Corey Trice all getting back to full practices. Roman Wilson's still limited. I'm not expecting Roman Wilson to have a big role this week or really until a little bit into the season. In fact, would not be surprised if you see one of Brandon Johnson, Quez Watkins, or Ben Skowronek elevated from the practice squad. And maybe they just make Roman Wilson outright inactive. Would not surprise me at all this week. Expect a lot of Van Jefferson, Pat Freiermuth, and George Pickens, as always, of course. But we'll see what happens at quarterback, and we will see if Darnell Washington plays because I think Darnell Washington for this game specifically, for neutralizing some of the pass rush elements that they will bring against those different fronts is I think a very important player for the Steelers to have. Folks, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn the notification bell if you were watching this on YouTube. Make sure to leave a review if you're listening to this on a podcasting platform. Check the description. You can sign up for Steelers Breakdown Insider Subtext right now. Get it all delivered right to your phone. An instant analysis, observations. You get one-on-ones with me as well. So make sure to check that out. All right, everybody. Thanks for watching. Be back tomorrow.